The wind howled through the barren fields of LaPorte, Indiana, sending dry leaves skittering across the ground like whispers of long-forgotten ghosts. The old Gunness farmhouse stood at the edge of the land, a silent monument to the horrors buried beneath it. A flickering lantern cast uneasy shadows against its weathered wooden walls, its dim glow barely piercing the thick veil of the night. Few dared to approach the farm, but those who did often vanished without a trace. One by one, they arrived, men with hopeful hearts, answering the call of a lonely widow seeking companionship. They carried their belongings in neat little suitcases, along with bundles of cash meant to secure their future. They dreamed of a fresh start, of marriage, of a prosperous life on a sprawling farm. Instead, they found only death. Belle Gunness, the woman who owned the farm, welcomed them with open arms. A towering figure of Nordic descent, her presence was as commanding as it was unsettling. She promised love, warmth, and stability. But before the sun could rise on their new life, they would be reduced to nothing more than bones buried beneath the soil. Belle Gunness was not always the Black Widow of LaPorte. She was born Brynhild Paulsdatter Sturseth in 1859 in the rural town of Selbu, Norway. The daughter of a poor farmer, she learned early on that survival often required a ruthless hand. From childhood, she harbored a cold pragmatism that set her apart from the other children. There were whispers that she was different, unfeeling, calculating. The first event that foreshadowed her dark future occurred when she was in her late teens. Pregnant and unmarried, Belle was allegedly attacked by the father of her unborn child. He beat her savagely, and soon after, the baby was lost. The man, however, did not live long to boast of his cruelty. He was found dead soon after, his body cold and contorted. Some believed it was an accident, while others whispered that the quiet girl from Selbu had taken her first life. In 1881, she left Norway for America, determined to carve out a better life for herself. She settled in Chicago, changing her name to Belle and quickly learning the art of manipulation. Belle's first husband, Mads Sorensen, was a hard-working man who provided her with financial stability. But Belle was never content with stability alone. She craved wealth. When Mads mysteriously died in 1900, Belle collected a sizable life insurance payout. Conveniently, he had two overlapping policies at the time of his death, doubling her earnings. Doctors ruled it heart failure, but some suspected poison. There was no investigation. Belle moved forward, purchasing a farm in LaPorte with the money, setting the stage for what would become a house of horrors. It was then that the pattern began. She married again, this time to Peter Gunness, but his life was short-lived. Only 8 months into their marriage, he too met an untimely demise, his skull crushed beneath a meat grinder. Belle wept for the authorities, her grief so convincing that they ruled his death an accident. Yet the people of LaPorte whispered behind her back, wondering how misfortune always seemed to follow this woman. It was then that Belle devised her most sinister scheme. Through lonely hearts ads placed in newspapers, she sought out men who were looking for love. Widow with a prosperous farm seeks hardworking gentleman for companionship. Must be willing to invest. The responses poured in, and so did the suitors. Men, eager to find happiness, arrived at the farm with their savings in hand. One by one, they were welcomed inside, wined and dined, made to feel at home. And then, one by one, they disappeared. Belle had perfected her methods. Some victims were poisoned, their deaths silent and painless. Others met a more gruesome fate, struck down with an axe as they slept, their skulls split open with chilling precision. Their bodies were stripped of valuables, then dismembered and buried in the pig bin or beneath the barn. The farmhand, Ray Lamphere, was often seen digging trenches behind the barn, but no one questioned it until it was too late. In April of 1908, the Gunness farmhouse erupted into flames. When the smoke cleared, authorities found a horrifying sight: 4 bodies, burned beyond recognition. Among them was a headless woman, believed to be Belle Gunness herself. But something was off. The woman's body was far too small to match Belle's large frame. As they searched the property, investigators stumbled upon something even more sinister: mass graves filled with human remains. Over 40 men had been buried on the farm, their corpses reduced to little more than bones. Skulls, femurs, and rib cages were uncovered in the soil, revealing a gruesome timeline of Belle's killing spree. Forensic analysis at the time was rudimentary, but even the most basic examinations revealed that many of the victims had been brutally murdered before being burned or dismembered. Some had defensive wounds, suggesting a desperate struggle before death. Others bore marks of meticulous dismemberment, their limbs hacked apart with near-surgical precision. Ray Lamphere, Belle's farmhand and suspected lover, was arrested for arson. But before he died in prison, he made a chilling confession. Belle Gunness had faked her own death. The headless corpse was a decoy, a woman she had killed to throw off authorities. She had vanished into the night, carrying with her the fortune she had stolen from her victims. Some claimed she escaped to Chicago, where a woman matching her description was seen withdrawing large sums of money from banks. Others believed she fled to California, where eerie reports surfaced of a widow who bore a striking resemblance to the Black Widow of Porte. Her fate remains one of the greatest mysteries in true crime history. Some say she died a free woman, hidden in plain sight, while others believe she killed again under a new name. But one thing is certain, Belle Gunness was not just a murderer. She was a predator, a master manipulator who turned love into a death sentence. And as the cold wind continues to whistle through the abandoned fields of Porte, the whispers of her victims still linger, warning those who dare to seek their fate in the arms of a stranger. If you like true crime stories like this, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.